Yes. You can drop it off at your house tomorrow. Leave it in your door or something.
I'm gonna try to.
I'd send myself all day. Bring your checklist and. Yeah. Okay.
For this next segment, do you want to join the directors, please? Yeah, please. Make it a little more convenient for you to communicate.
Yeah, and we're hitting another record, I think, tonight, they said, with the temperature. I know. It's not a record we want to break.
Are you sick?
Normal cough.
Yeah, I just sent him a text message. He should be here.
So we ran a little bit long, in closed session. This is helpful. We did do a few items earlier, so maybe we can make up some time here. Call for a motion to move from closed session back to open session.
Second.
The motion is presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Next item on the agenda would be study session 2020 budget follow-up. There was some requests from different departments for some potential staffing changes. So you know how you've got the fast forward on your TVs, guys, when you're watching a video? Can you speak 5 times normal speed to catch up the minutes lost here? I'm joking. How are we going to do this? Please, if you would, Director Trumbull.
Yeah, as a result of our budget study session a couple weeks ago, there were some additional staffing questions that came up that some of the trustees wanted some more detailed information from the HR manager on her position that was requested. I think we spoke through Director Smith's position pretty thoroughly at the study session. I think the trustees were pretty comfortable with that one. So as long as you are all comfortable with it, we'll kind of skip over the municipal services positions. But really what we did is we came together as a group to talk about a different process than what we've done in the past with the Board of Trustees when looking at positions for the budget. So historically, we've always kind of just put them into the budget, briefly talked about them during the budget session, and then asked the board to approve them when we approve the budget. But then in the rest of the year, if a position was added, we went into a lot more detail with the board. So we talked about that as a leadership group and realized that that's probably the same process we should have been following at budget adoption time as well. So we're taking a step back. We provided a memo that gave a little bit more information similar to what you would have seen if we were asking for a position mid-year. I presented a memo. Jade was nice enough to send that out for me as I was out of town at the end of the week. But I summarized the financial summary of it, especially for the general fund and the first part, followed by the information provided by each of the directors for their positions that they were requesting. So, and looking at the HR position, approximately 35% of that total cost, the total cost is about $94,000 for that position. About 35% of it actually is borne by the general fund because the remainder of the work is done for other departments, other full-time equivalents. So it's really about a $33,000 general fund impact. And Kieran can speak more details for that position and what the needs are.
Okay. Good evening. I tried to provide a lot of detail in the information I provided the board in this memo. I've done pretty much everything I could within the department since I've been here, evaluated staff, streamlined operations, trained employees, rebalanced workloads, tried to make things as efficient as possible and ensure that what we were doing was the core business and delivering a level of service that we could be proud of. After doing all of that, and looking at all of the workloads of things that we have inherited over time through process changes or through savings to the township through going from a fully insured to a self-insured, taking on short-term disability, long-term disability, and the alphabet soup of legislation that has come down that impacted our department. We reached a point where we can't deliver the level of service and let alone right now maintain the service levels that we believe that the employees expect, and even our applicants coming from the outside. We've increased our way of hiring. We are very selective. We don't just take anybody. We pride ourselves on hiring the best of the best, and with that comes a lot of hard work. I presented to the board earlier this year that we had about 800 and some odd applicants come in at that time. We have already reviewed over 1,300 applications. We interview on a pretty regular basis, and we service every employee in every department. So we're one department that services everybody. It's just a huge workload that we're unable to meet the needs of currently. And then long-term, there are items that we're headed into that will also add an impact to the department that we would like to get to. They will provide cost savings. So when we look at the implications of this position, the changes that have happened over time have more than covered the cost for the position. We think that the savings to come before you in the future and some of the changes with our post-65 retirees and increasing their benefits will actually come at a cost savings to the township. But again, a lot of those things come with time required to be able to perform them. And then finally, case management is the other side of it, with short-term disability, workers' comp, FMLA, those types of things all come with a component that requires our coordination, not only with an administrator, we have a third-party administrator, but we actually do the work. It's the coordination between the departments, the employees, the doctors, you name it. All come through our office, and we've not increased staff. I look back over the past 10 years, we've been at the same level, but have increased the workload pretty significantly.
Package did go out to everybody in advance. Does anybody have any additional questions at this time for Kareen? And if there are, this would be the time. If not, we'll go ahead and allow Director Hohenberger maybe to share, or go ahead. Okay, Anne Marie.
It was a good explanation, so it really helped, I think, to describe it.
And in general, I think where we want to end up after tonight, the purpose of this study session is Thursday is when we need to go to print this week on this new budget. So we need to get feedback to either Wendy or myself in the next 48 hours in terms of, hey, we're comfortable with what we saw tonight, or we're not comfortable, so I know where the board is directionally, right? And then when we come to vote on the actual final budget next week, we'll be prepared and ready to go, and our numbers and the data set will match what we're voting on. That's the goal. So between now and, was it close of business Thursday, or when do you publish?
Have to put the public hearing notice in the paper. We have to notify them on Thursday, and as soon as that hits the paper, we have to have a copy of the budget on hand for anybody to come review. So we need to know very quickly so we can make any modifications to the budget.
Thursday, is
That's-
that
yeah.
sufficient? So if everybody could kind of give feedback? Okay. Is that where you wanted to go next, or is there something else that you wanted to?
I just wanted to make one comment before
Please.
Greg spoke on his position. Greg's position, we didn't talk about at the study session a couple weeks ago, and really that was intentional, because what we were going to do is bring that before the board, similarly to other times of the year when we've brought to the board more detailed explanation. But in light of the fact we were having this discussion today, it seemed like the right time to bring this up now as part of a larger conversation. So right now, this position is not in the 2020 budget. So if we're going to add it, we're going to need to do that relatively quickly as well. So we'll really specifically need feedback for Greg's position as well.
Thank you for that. So yes, that is, I apologize, it wasn't included in the budget. We were just kind of going through the process with it, but once this was coming forward, I really wanted to make sure this was included, so you didn't choose to include a couple positions and then wonder why another position was coming before you a month later, not included in the budget process. So really, for us, it's similar to the issues that Kareen has brought up for her position, similar but totally different at the same time. It's a workload issue that we're trying to address, which is similar to what Kareen had. So we've had the same level of full-time staff individuals in our Parks Department since 2002. in your packet, I included a list of the number or the variety of things that we have added on to responsibilities in the Parks Department over the last 15-plus years in there. Just a handful of examples are the Lower Rouge Trail didn't exist. We didn't have any splash pads. We added Patriot Park, Preservation Park. Next year, we're adding Copper Park, and we're also adding another ball field back here, in addition to all of the events that we support with our Parks Department that have grown and expanded over the last 15 years. We've really taken on a lot there. We also do a few things that we've taken on that aren't necessarily thought of always as township properties, but those include the square out in front of Workman Elementary there, as well as the Fountain Park out in the Cherry Hill Village. So those are items that we also take care of since we've added our last full-time position. So what we're proposing for this position is that during the summer season, it would operate Wednesday through Sunday. So we would have a regular Saturday and Sunday full-time presence amongst our staff. And currently, right now, the way we're covering, we have a full-time staff member running work crews every weekend throughout the summer for 20 weeks. And we have to bring them in Saturdays at time and a half, Sunday at double time. So this position would help address that. So immediately we'd be able to eliminate that overtime that we have every weekend. It doesn't mean we're going to completely eliminate. We will still have to bring overtime folks in for larger events, but we would have at least one person here that's already here on regular time, and then if they needed additional support, it would be potentially overtime, but that would be the same as what we're operating now with the one person on straight time instead of overtime. And then we're also proposing to reduce some part-time wages, that this will be able to help us with our overall workload throughout the summer. And a big thing that we want to focus on as well is that the benefits of a full-time staff member instead of a seasonal person. Seasonal, we've had over the years, due to a lot of federal regulations that Corrine could probably expound upon. That's a big word. Better than I can. We've gone to the seasonal schedule. We used to hire employees for 9 months. And now, because of the federal regulations, that's been restricted down to 6 months. So they can work 40 hours a week for 6 months for our seasonal employees. So we've lost a fair amount of labor there. And then the difference in the type of equipment that a full-time individual can operate, a large pull-behind mower, chainsaws. They can help with a lot more projects. They can also run a work crew that a part-time staff member can't do. So we're able to accomplish a lot more. Plus, this person obviously would be here year-round as opposed to seasonal or part-time labor that isn't providing the hours or the full year. Something else that just slipped my mind with the position. So with that, I guess I'll answer any questions that you have.
This is an additional AFSCME?
Yes,
member.
this would be an additional AFSCME member within the Parks labor level.
Got a partial offset, I've understood this before, but the partial offset by part-time, what you have budgeted for part-time.
Correct. Yeah, the total cost, I believe, was around $67,000. Does that sound correct? And then the net, after reducing overtime and part-time wages, was $45,000, which would be the cost to the general fund.
That we have not seen yet.
Correct. Yeah, the other item I was going to talk about just real briefly was the number of projects that are either being deferred or undone, which I kind of listed that in the memo for you as well. There are a number of things that are either not being done or being done much later than we would prefer. The overall standard for our parks is just based on the amount of labor that we have, we're not able to do the projects in a timely manner. We had, the one that always stuck out to me that I hated to see, but we just couldn't get to was we had to remove several trees that were dead along the back line of the Summit parking lot that kind of separated the Summit to Pheasant Run driving range. And for about a year, we had 10 stumps back there before we were able to get back there and remove those. And that's something we'd like to, just one small example of things that just don't present Canton in the best light for what we would like. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, is to be able to up our standards a bit, to be able to maintain the assets that we have.
Talked about, so the federal regulations, you can't have a worker, you have 9 months, goes down to 6 months, right?
Correct.
The other 3 months, how do you cover them?
Overtime, or deferred projects, other things that just aren't getting done. That's kind of what we've been dealing with.
Kareem, can you also?
I think what the main thing he refers to is the Affordable Care Act, so it limited our ability, if you had employees work a certain number of hours per week consistently throughout the year, they were deemed to be full-time employees and would need to be paid full-time benefits. So the offset would have to be multiple people doing the job rather than just one. So if it was, 9 months, you could have somebody for 6 months, and you could have somebody else doing different work for a different period of time, but it would take multiple people as opposed to one with fully loaded benefits.
That's what we're looking at then, using 2 people then, rather than overtime, right?
Pardon?
Are you going to use overtime, or are you looking at maybe doing a part-time person for 3 months?
No, with this proposal, we're reducing some of our part-time labor and reducing our overtime because we're able to cover the weekend shifts over the summer with regular shifts. Because this person would have the weekend as part of their normal shift.
Questions? Oh, go
I
ahead,
just want
Diane,
to make
please.
a quick comment. I want to thank Wendy and Jade for putting this together, because this really helped me, and I'm sure everybody else, wrap our heads around why and where you're going to get the monies for it. So thank you. This was very
It
valuable.
was all the directors working together on the new process and for the future, so thank you, guys, absolutely. Okay, Michael?
Yeah, if I may, I
Yeah,
think,
you started this thing last week, a couple weeks ago.
well, I told Pat, later on, in my career, my first time elected to public office was in 2008, entering in the recession, and all I saw was a loss of bodies. And then going to the school district, in that sense too, you get used to budgeting out of increased costs and flat revenues. And so adding positions is not something I'm entirely used to. So for me, seeing this degree of breakdown was very impressive. I appreciate it. It definitely makes the case for these positions. I think it's extremely reasonable, given how we're funding these positions. And, we talk about the degree one having a $120 million local roads program over a 20-year period is, that's a lot of work. And I think definitely makes sense as to why we would want the additional firepower, along with the other, how many permits we have going on inside the township and everything like that. Talking about bringing in the healthcare in-house and the amount of savings that HR has realized by us being self-insured. And the importance of kind of making sure we're on top of that. And again, too, we talk, this board alone has seen, we are trying to create a new park, and we've seen an increase in everything there. So it makes sense to me. My initial trepidation or any questions that I had, I've been satisfied. I think that this is extremely reasonable, and I would be in favor of adding these in the budget. That's just my own personal opinion.
Thank you.
I try to be clear about my position on this one, because
Thank
that
you.
probably makes it a little bit easier for everyone to know where to go from here.
And maybe we can save everybody time in the near future. I, too, appreciate the new process, and it'll add clarity to future boards at budget time when there are changes in headcounts and departments, and make this part of the process at this level of detail is fantastic. So very supportive of all the positions being requested. I'm seeing some heads going up and down. Go ahead, Summer, if you...
No, I want to echo what everyone else said, but I also want to lift up that I appreciate that Director Smith in his presentation included succession planning for the Municipal Services Department, which I think is really important, and I would like to see a lot more of that throughout the township.
I'm good with it.
Like a winner.
Thank you. Outstanding job, guys. We'll segue now back to general calendar. Do we have to make a motion to move from the study? We took care of some business before, so guys, believe it or not, I think we're getting back on schedule here. Yes, at this point, I would make a request. If there's anybody here that would like to make public comment regarding an agenda, something that's not on the agenda, is there anybody who would like to make public comment? All right, seeing none, I would ask that Clerk Segris read the consent calendar as a single motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board approve or adopt the consent calendar as presented. Item C1, establishing the Board of Trustee meeting dates for the 2020 calendar year. Item C2, consider approval of the 2019 massage establishment license transfer for Indigo Salon, Spa, and Boutique as allowed in Chapter 18, Article 3, entitled Massage Ordinance. Item C3, consider the 2020 Planning Commission meeting date calendar. Item C4, consider approval of a budget amendment for the DDA fund. And item C5, a formal resolution in recognition of Thomas Hudak.
In favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. General calendar item. We did pay the bills? Yes, we.
You made a
Motion earlier, so that's
earlier,
done.
so yes.
So very good, we're good there. And don't want to leave without paying the bills this month. All right, item G1, consider final approval of Arbor Glen Plan Development District and approval of preliminary site plan for Arbor Glen.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the following resolution: approval of the final plan development district and preliminary site plan for Arbor Glen. Whereas the project sponsor has requested final approval of a plan development district for Arbor Glen and preliminary site plan approval for Arbor Glen on property located on the northwest corner of Warren and Ridge Roads. Whereas the Planning Commission reviewed the final plan development agreement, and preliminary site plan and voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the requests, subject to conditions as they meet the criteria for a planned development, result in definite benefits to the community, and comply with the site design requirements of the zoning ordinance. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton, Michigan does hereby approve the Arbor Glen Final Plan Development District and approve the preliminary site plan of Arbor Glen on the tax parcel numbers listed as proposed in the planned development agreement and plan documents, subject to all applicable state and local development regulations.
In summary, Arbor Glen is a proposed PDD of 36 single-family residential site condominiums on a 36.02 acre site located at the northwest corner of Warren and Ridge. One entrance is proposed on Ridge on the south part of the site, located 400 feet north of Warren. One gated emergency vehicle entrance is proposed on Ridge on the north part of the site, located 1,675 feet north of Warren. The project sponsor proposes to pave Ridge Road from Warren to the southern entrance to the development. Each planned development district is required to demonstrate definite benefits to the community. The project sponsor proposes the following definite benefits: maintaining 32.6% of the site, or 12.3 acres as open space, which exceeds our 25% minimum, constructing sidewalks along the west side of Ridge from Arbor Glen to Warren Road, including walks across Ridge and Warren Roads to connect the existing sidewalk network on the opposite sides of those roads, preserving approximately 800 trees on the site that are neither protected or that are either protected or landmark trees, and minimizing clearing and grading along Ridge Road, which is a natural beauty road. Additionally, the plans note the additional landscaping along Ridge will consist of native species consistent with the natural beauty road objectives. Are there any board questions or additional information required from Director Smith? Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. So these are site condominiums, which means private road, right? That's correct? Does site condominiums require it be a private road? Is that, or can it be public road?
I believe it can be a public road, but I think I'd have to work with Mr. Goulet on that, but there'd have to be an agreement between the association and the township. Well,
Or the
actually,
county.
this is Wayne County. I have to talk to Mr. Goulet.
Yep.
It works different than,
current state of Wayne County in terms of the roads and,
The only reason I bring it up is that it prohibits them from ever being part of, what we ran into with the roads program, where they cannot participate in the monies. And I just was wondering what goes into your decision in terms of making it private versus public? Or is it something that just goes with condominiums? I think we need you on the mic if you're gonna, thanks.
Good evening. Mike Knowles with the Umlor Group, representing Pulte Homes tonight. Thank you for your question. Really, the public road versus private road doesn't change much from a developer's perspective because we build the roads to the exact same standards. I think really it's a matter of permitting is really the only edge you get with going with a private road, and also a little bit more control for the subdivision to have control over the aspects of their own neighborhood rather than trying to rely on it. I've done several that have gone both ways. Trying to think if of a site condo that had public roads. Yeah, we've done some of those. And really, you end up going through the public road process to dedicate it over to the county, and then the homeowners association ends up paying for clearing anyways and maintenance anyways because it's very low on the priority and the hierarchy of the county needs to service it. And so there's very little benefit to going that route. I do recognize what you're talking about being able to get those additional funds to help fund some of those. But if a homeowners association is properly set up and properly funded, it really doesn't become a problem.
So it would be very clear to the association that part of their monies will be going towards, I'm sure you guys will build great roads, but when they do need repairs in 15 years or something, or hopefully 20, some of their monies has to go to that.
No question about it. The reserves are always set up. It's a very transparent process, transitioning the development from the developer to the homeowners association. And we have to follow specific steps to make sure that we've got the appropriate reserves and that when we transfer it over, that they understand how those are built up and what they're for.
The only other question I had is I noticed in the Planning Commission was that some people, well, the drawings are very rudimentary right now of what they're going to look like, and they asked some questions about, or concerns about making sure that they looked the way they felt in that area of the community the homes need to look like. And I know we have another step to this, so I'm sure we'll get those, but.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I think we're on our 7th public meeting on this process, and we're still, while you're doing final PD tonight, we still have final site plan to do and all the construction docs. And these homes, along with some additional homes, are very similar, and some are the same models as the Westbury neighborhood, and so they're top-notch homes.
Okay, thank you.
Henry?
Sure, so as trustee Snyderman said, there was some, Dawn Zuber, who is our architect, did have some issues with the aesthetics of the building, but I know she'll be working with the team on that. And then also in the response, 10% out of the yearly budget for each condo has to go towards the roads when they're private roads. That's a requirement, correct? That's basically something we talked about. I'm wondering if they would be able to change that, if they voted on it. And say
They could increase it, but there's certain levels that you have to hit.
they want to go from private roads to public roads.
Oh, you could because they're built to those standards. I don't know of any that have ever done that, but I think that you could. The county would have to accept the roads. So part of the the difference is when you do a Wayne County public roads, they have full-time inspection, they do all the material testing, and so you'd have those hurdles to go over, even though that they're built to the exact same specifications and the exact same standards. And so instead of Wayne County doing the compaction tests, for example, we hire a third-party geotech to do those. So McDowell and Associates will come out and do the same tests, the same materials, same thicknesses, And so I think establishing, how the roads were built would probably be the hurdle to taking a private road public at that point.
And I also know that, the utility lines are going to be underground, which is good in that area. And you've been working with residents, even some of the residents were requesting additional trees, and you were taking that under consideration. There was still a concern, though, about the traffic, with the traffic measurements that were over 1,000+ cars a day there. And so that's still a pain point that we're going to have to look at in the future. Okay, thanks.
I appreciate that you are preserving the Natural Beauty Road. I've heard a lot of residents ask about that. My question is about approval from MDEQ, or what is now Michigan Eagle. What is that process, and does that happen before you come before the board for the next step?
Yes, it does. So we have already applied to Eagle for our wetlands permit. ASTI is our wetlands consultant on that particular permit. So we'll have that permit in hand. We have to have all of our outside agency permits in hand to get final site plan approval from this board. So yes, we will have it.
Yeah, I really appreciate the work that went into this. I love seeing a PDD like this where it's a sensitive area of the township, right? It's traditionally a fairly rural area. It's on a natural beauty road. You don't have to go too far with a Google search to see kind of the tension that some residents have with developing these parcels of property. And here we have a street tree and woodland replacement plan that is protecting some of the existing forest that's there, making sure those trees are still there on the Natural Beauty Road. We have some paving going in there. There's a clear public benefit. Density is 1 per acre, and you're maintaining a lot of the open space still. This is a win-win. I like to see this, so thank you.
No further board comments. Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much.
Item G2, consider approval of an agreement with Wayne County to provide winter maintenance on 8 miles of county roads, or 15.65 lane miles. This technically, I thought was going to be in the consent calendar. Looks like it snuck out, got in the general calendar. This is something we do every year, and what we're doing is basically writing a check to Wayne County to have them prioritize some of our secondary roads when they're out doing the snow plowing. Are there any questions for myself?
I think you need a motion.
Director Smith? Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the agreement with Wayne County to provide additional winter maintenance for 8 miles or 15.65 lane miles of county local roads and authorize the payment of $21,456.87 from the account number listed for engineering right-of-way maintenance, professional and contractual services, and authorize the township clerk, myself, to sign the agreement resolution on behalf of Canton.
Any questions or comments?
I will just briefly, I've had another community reached out to me about this agreement recently, so they're going to be pursuing something along this line. I did see Joy Road west of Beck is listed, and that's a road we share with Plymouth Township. Have we ever discussed splitting the cost of that road with Plymouth Township 50-50, or?
I can't answer that
Jade,
question.
in your long experience here
Yeah,
with the
I can't
township.
answer that question, but it's definitely something that I can look into and see how that stretch of road is actually divvied up.
Only 1 mile.
Joy Road,
Right.
west of.
Maybe we
I mean,
pay a
looking at-
half and they pay a half.
Yeah. Looking at the math, if it's 15.65 of lane miles and it's 8 miles of roader being assessed, it's not quite half, so maybe we are, but I will
We're
look
only
into
paying
it.
for the half on our side, it looks like to me.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I think is happening. But what this does lead to is, this is, without going into my very first board meeting where I asked Tom Yak, what the heck are we doing? I still don't believe it's the right thing, but we continue to do it year after year because we do want our roads plowed sooner than later. That being said, it used to be 48 lane miles. And what we did was we did the reassessment with MDOT and Wayne County, because it's in all of our best interest to have roads shifted from secondary roads to primary, because with that, Wayne County gets more funding from MDOT. So as we build out these subdivisions going to the west, maybe it's time to maybe look at our maps and see if some of these lane miles next year, we can't begin that process again to drop the number. It was 48 lane miles, now it's 15. Let's get it down to nothing if we can.
Right. And I think that is something we'll work with the county on and get those reclassified if we can. And that building and development doesn't have to happen just particularly in these stretches of roads. If those roads are adjacent to another development, and it's all about traffic count. So we can definitely look at that and then petition the county to get those reclassified.
Any charges, there's a neighborhood on Cherry Hill and Lily, and it's on the northeast corner. And apparently, a lot of school buses were getting stuck there. So what the neighbor said is that Wayne County comes in when it gets snowy like this, and they'll actually plow, like right, just one street through their neighborhood so the school buses can get through. Do they charge us back for anything like that? We
The
have a-
county?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
And I mean, they're making it a priority because it's a bus route.
Okay.
And that's pretty common to any sort of jurisdiction that's overseeing roads and plowing roads. Yes.
Comments or questions? Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G3. Blow it up so I can read it. Request for approval of annual email archive for new service and migration.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve a purchase order totaling $62,995 payable to CDW Government for a purchase of email archive services provided by Barracuda Networks covering a period of 1 5-year.
Support?
Wait,
Oh,
that looks like an interesting typo.
all right, thought you were done.
I'm assuming the
of
5 is a
one-
typo? No, 1 5-year period? Okay, existing fund, all right.
Either 1 year or 5 years.
5 years.
Of 1 5-year period. Existing funds provided for in IT services account number listed, professional contractual services contingency can provide for this service.
Now support.
Summary here. IT Services prepares budgets 2 years in advance with the best possible financial projections available at the time. IT Services did not anticipate Microsoft Corporation raising prices 25% for email archive services in 2019-2020. Finance and Budget Director instructed IT management to determine if an alternative archiving solution was viable and cost-effective service compared to continuing with Microsoft. IT Services is recommending a migration from Microsoft 365 email archive service to Barracuda Networks cloud email service. The Township previously utilized this solution hosted with our own servers. The Township staff have found Microsoft method of gaining access to archive emails to be challenging and problematic at best. Township was a previous customer of Barracuda and changed to Microsoft because at the time it was the best interest of the Township to archive our cloud email to a cloud solution. After the migration to the Microsoft solution, Township staff were not as productive in utilizing the Microsoft service and often relied on IT Services to find emails for them. In order to reduce ongoing costs, IT Services is recommending and approving a purchase order in the amount of $62,995 for a 5-year contract for email archiving services with Barracuda, which is offered through the state of Michigan's bidding process. This will result in a savings from our current provider of nearly $54,000 over a 5-year period and a $24,500 over the same period by paying this cost up front. IT has confirmed with Barracuda that all existing email in the Township and email archive accounts can be migrated to their service over the course of 3 to 6 weeks. So this sounds like a good thing on many different levels. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Director Trumbull or Mr. Kozinski, who's with us this evening?
like a good savings of money, which is great compared to what was going to happen, which is good. Will it be a different interface for the users? Will there be a learning curve, or it's going back to something we had before?
Bill Kosinski, IT Services Manager. Yeah, it will have two interfaces. My understanding is that the employees will be able to use a plugin in their Outlook client, as they did previously, as well as there'll be a web interface that can be searched either from the web, or if an employee is off-site and doesn't have access to their Outlook client, they'll be able to search in that fashion.
I forget. So who's providing our email service, not the archive, but the email service today?
Currently, we're with Office 365.
Okay, and that will stay the same?
Yes, it will.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Security will always be the forefront of my mind. It will be monitored, and as much security that can be put in place without becoming an impediment to the employees' functionality will be enforced.
Thank you.
Questions? Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item G4, consider approval of 2 purchase orders for an emergency electrical service repair and uninterrupted power system, UPS, in the IT server room.
This will be in the form of 3 motions eventually. Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve a purchase order in amount not to exceed $10,000 to Corby Energy Services Incorporated at P.O. Box 970 in Belleville, Michigan, 48112, to be paid from the account number listed for capital outlay computer and equipment, or computer equipment.
Support.
Everybody has seen or heard of this previously, perhaps not. So in September 2019, the Township Administration Building encountered a power surge which caused a failure of the server room electrical panel surge protector. The surge protector provided the service needed to protect the electrical power source. It means it did its job. The Township servers, including our 911 phone service, therefore, we are now requesting a purchase order in the amount of $47,475 to replace the server equipment, as well as a second purchase order for $10,000 for the installation service. And we again have Joe and Wendy, if there are any questions or comments on this item. This is to replace the surge protector. Yes?
This is actually to purchase the uninterrupted power
Power
system,
source total.
which I'm going to let Joe or Brad speak to the electrical piece of this, as that is not my forte. Can one of you get up and speak to what the uninterrupted power system will do for us in the server room and phones?
So the uninterrupted power system will provide us backup in case of a DTE power outage, as well as if the generator goes down at the same time. So it's very important to maintain our system that we have there.
One system goes down, it relays us over to the other system, or flips it to the one that's operable. Okay, Anne Marie?
How long does it last?
So it'll last 2.5 hours.
Hours? Where will it be located at then? So it's,
Secure location.
yeah, basically on battery then, and that's how long the
The
battery
battery
lasts.
backup system.
Battery backup.
Questions? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve a second purchase order in the amount of $47,475 to Eaton Corporation at the same P.O. Box 93531 in Chicago, Illinois, 60673, to be paid from the account number listed for capital outlay computer equipment.
Those in favor of the second motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Third motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I finally move to approve the following budget amendments. Decrease expenditures to the capital outlay buildings and improvements account for, fund for $10,000. Decrease revenue to the transfers in general account for $10,000, and increase expenditures to the capital outlay computer and equipment for $10,000, and decrease expense to the transfer out of community improvement fund for $10,000. Thank you.
Those in favor of the third motion as presented, please state aye.
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 Motion carries. Item G5. Consider approval of Heritage Park Ball Field Fence Design and Installation, contract and purchase orders, and there'll be two motions here.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to award a contract and approve a purchase order to Michigan Fence Outlet at 46705 Herb Drive in Macomb, Michigan, 48042 for the design and installation of a ball field fence at Heritage Park. A 2019 purchase order will be submitted in the amount of $59,900 from the account number listed for capital outlay land improvements.
Leisure Services released a request for proposal in August to seek a company to provide design and installation for new ball field fence at Heritage Park. On September 5th, 2019, two proposals were received. Leisure Services is recommending Michigan Fence Outlet to provide the services. Upon selection of the contractor, the team negotiated a scope of work and cost proposal with Michigan Fence Outlet for design, installation, and development of the new ball field at Heritage Park. The cost to perform the work is $59,900, with this portion of the project to be paid from Wayne County IGA funding and transferred dollars from the Community Improvement Fund. And for those of you that are following the third paragraph in the summary, that's going to be dropped from the agenda this evening, basically. It's not really changing this issue. It's just we're not going to talk about 2020 tonight. We'll bring that back at a later time after budgets get approved. So that being said, are there any questions or comments for Director Hollenberger? Okay, seeing none. Those in favor of the first motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the following budget amendments. Decrease revenue to the transfer in general account for $35,513. Decrease expense to the capital outlay buildings and improvements account for $35,513. Increase expenditures to the account number listed for $35,513, and decrease expense to the transfer out of community improvement account for $35,513.
Okay, those in favor of the second motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G6, consider authorization to purchase new cardio equipment for Summit on the Park.
Mr. Supervisor, this is in the form of 3 motions. I move to authorize a purchase order for 5 pieces of fitness equipment from Direct Fitness Solutions at 600 Tower Road in Mundelein, Illinois, 60060, in the amount of $29,621.70 from the account number listed for capital outlay machinery and equipment.
Support.
Just like a automobile, it has a life cycle, and in the detail, you can see that the Summit has 38 pieces of cardiovascular fitness equipment, and we are replacing a few of the older pieces with this motion. Are there any questions or comments for Director Hollenberger? Go ahead, Summer.
My apologies, Greg. I think you told us this when we had the study session, but I can't remember. But how long do we keep the equipment for?
The fitness equipment, basically the electronic cardio equipment, we keep for 3 years. That's
Okay.
the general length of the warranty on that equipment, so we replace it at the end of its warranty period.
Thank you.
Steve?
I'm just excited to use the new espresso bike machine at one.
Now, that does not actually come with an espresso.
Yeah. Never mind. No, I know. I've used it, and it had been starting to deteriorate. I know the one of the two, I guess you're just replacing one of the two of
Yes,
those?
yeah,
so.
the one that's not functioning right now.
And it's good to, always good to see it refreshed. I think it'll attract more people. And I lay down my gauntlet to trustee Anthony to try each of these machines and compete.
Well,
I expect to lose, by the way.
May 20th is.
We could certainly arrange for a scoreboard.
Okay.
Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, those in favor of the first motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second motion.
Supervisor, I move to authorize a purchase order for 2 pieces of fitness equipment from Matrix Fitness, 1600 Landmark Drive, Cottage Grove, Wisconsin, 53527, in the amount of $7,250 from the account number for capital outlay machinery and equipment.
In favor of the second motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Third motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I finally move to authorize a purchase order for 2 pieces of fitness equipment from Fitness and Things at 35539 Schoolcraft Road, Livonia, Michigan, 48170, in the amount of $11,390 from the account number listed for capital outlay machinery and equipment.
Or,
In favor of the third motion as presented, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Item G7, consider approval of the first reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 50 to the Code of Ordinances, Parks and Recreation, Section, let's see, Article 1, Section 50-2. Motion?
Mr. Supervisor, this is going to be in the form of 2
Good.
motions. I move to introduce for first reading an ordinance which amends Chapter 50, Article 1 of the Canton Code of Ordinances entitled Parks and Recreation.
Good. This was a good one for the media may want to pay attention to this one. The board is being asked to adopt amendment to Chapter 50 of the Canton Code of Ordinances, Parks and Recreation, with the assistance of Canton Township Legal Counsel, Leisure Services Leadership Team, revised and updated the entire Parks and Recreation Ordinance to include the addition of Article 1, Section 50-2, smoking on leisure services facilities properties. The proposed language would ban smoking in all leisure services facilities, parks, and restrict smoking to designated areas at Pheasant Run and Fellows Creek golf courses. The proposed ordinance is attached as a strikeover copy, and there were other minor changes made in the document, but that is the gist of the significant changes happening here. Are there any questions for Director Hohenberger?
Other than I think this is great. I'm really happy to see this. Thank you.
Are we having issues with this at all? Do you know?
We haven't had any specific issues. It's just a overall health and wellness push that we're trying to, as you know, as we're continuing to evolve as a society. We're trying to make sure the park is a comfortable place for all. And if you've ever sat at a concert in a park and had somebody 50 feet away smoking and you're a non-smoker, it certainly can affect your enjoyment of the evening or running through the park past somebody. So we really want to put that out there. It'll also help public safety because this will take care of, it will not allow vaping in parks either, and there's been issues with vaping products among teens and those sorts of things, so this will help give them an opportunity to enforce should they encounter an issue in one of our parks with those types of things. So we're not proposing that we're going to have public safety out actively patrolling the parks looking to ticket smokers. It'll be more of a friendly reminder amongst other users of the parks, and only if somebody really makes it an issue would it become an enforcement issue for public safety.
That include the Liberty Fest then?
Yes.
They would. Big one, big event, a lot of crowds with vaping this past summer.
Yes, so absolutely, it will provide a challenge for us, but I think it's something that will provide benefit. I was just looking earlier today, and in October of 2017, I found a report that there was over 1,500 municipalities in the country that had done similar ordinances. So we're looking at becoming one of those, and I think it'll put us out there as a leader in the state as well.
Health of our community, and that's important.
Absolutely, provide good examples and healthy spaces for youth as well.
We have a program that we're launching in 2020, is basically Get Healthy 2020. Is there a moniker or name assigned to that yet? I'm trying to remember what it is called or what's been kicked around.
There is, but I also cannot remember that off the top of my head.
On the same page, all right. But there is by design, a program we're kicking off next year for the entire community, not just the employees, to try to get a little healthier, so.
Correct.
I just want to say, you know, we've come a long way as a country from a time when we allowed the industry's quote scientists to discuss that there were no negative health consequences to smoking and produce reports and studies, if you will, that indicated that, to now where, you know, my wife and I recently had a baby, and we were learning about not just firsthand smoke and the dangers, not just secondhand smoke and the dangers to another person, but thirdhand smoke, right? The idea of having secondhand smoke on your clothing and what that does to children, and there are consequences to that. We are at a time when we have, I think, the lowest number of active smokers on a national level currently, and it's not by coincidence. You know, we banned smoking in public places, in restaurants and bars, at a time when people thought it would culturally be pandemonium, right? The interesting thing now is when I travel to other states that don't have the same ban, and I'm inside a building and I smell cigarette smoke, it's one of the most foreign things. And the culture changed to me without my even realizing it, and so it's interesting. I like this. It's a statement that we are, in a way, all responsible. And it's a good choice. So I'm grateful for this proposed ordinance amendment, and you can commend the Leisure Services Department for doing this. Good leadership.
Thank you.
It did find the new program is Live Well Canton Initiative. It's going to explore ways to take advantage of the community's plentiful parks, trails, facilities, and resources in an effort to live a healthier, more balanced life, taking time to focus on mind, body, and environment, and our township. So that is the Live Well Canton Program Initiative. Look for more information on that soon. Now back to our regular scheduled program here. Let's see. Any additional comments, questions? Go ahead, Summer, I'm sorry. Yeah, please.
How do we plan to advertise this change or let residents know that this is something that we've?
Get a ticket.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that we're making this effective January 1st of 2020, so it gives us time to get the word out. So we are going to do focus articles. We're going to have signage in our parks. We'll probably put some notifications in our Discover publication, and we're also going to reach out to all of our vendors and partners who this may affect, tournament directors, so that they can put it out there, because the Sports Center, for example, if you're having a tournament out there, you'll want your teams to know that there's no longer going to be smoking allowed in the facility or in the park part. They could go out to the parking lot portion, because that's a shared parking lot amongst all the facilities, so it's not considered one of our parks there, but actually beyond the fence out onto the fields. You wouldn't be able to smoke out there. So we're going to put that word out to all the groups that we work with, all of our tournament partners, all of our groups that we work with, as well as all of our public. And we're going to obviously put a positive spin on it, saying how we're excited about providing a safe, healthy space. And that's what we are. We're Leisure Services. We're here to provide healthy spaces for our residents, and this is one more way that we could do that. So we're very excited about the support that the board is showing tonight to really promote this change for our residents.
Is it something we'd consider putting in the Discover or the Focus?
Yes, it will
Okay.
as well.
Yes.
Also.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
Seeing no further questions or comments, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second motion.
Supervisor, I further move to a table for consideration of the proposed text amendment to the Code of Ordinances and to schedule a second reading for November 26, 2019.
Support.
Those in favor of the second motion presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G8, consider approval of online adjudication station for Dominion voting.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that we approve the purchase of online adjudication software from Dominion Voting in the amount of $21,680.72.
Clerk Segris, would you like to take us through the summary, or would you like me to go ahead and do that?
You can read it.
Very good.
You lovely
Executive summary. Clerk's Department has experienced tremendous growth in relation to the interest of absentee voting. The department's permanent absentee voter list has increased by over 100% with the passage of Proposal 18-3. Jurisdictions are now experiencing an increase in demand for absentee ballots by approximately 50%. Canton Township expects to see an estimated 30,000 absentee ballots processed in the November of 2020 election. The Clerk's Department is not currently equipped to deal with this level of demand in an efficient and accurate manner. Ballots cannot be processed until 7 a.m. on Election Day and are expected to be completed the same day. Online adjudication software prevents the ballot scanners from stopping constantly due to potential voter errors on the ballot. Instead, the ballots with issues are sent to the new station for digital review while scanners continue to process valid ballots. This would significantly increase our speed and performance. We are deeming this is necessary component for success alongside many other jurisdictions. The Clerk's Department currently has funds for this project in the existing budget. And if anybody has any comments or questions, please direct them towards Clerk Segris. Go ahead, Stephen.
Thanks, Clerk Segris. It's good to see you're proactively looking at what's going to happen next year with this change. The only question I have is, can you explain the term online? Because that can be a scary one in terms of elections. Yeah, and just explain the security associated with it.
Great question. So all of our absentee counting boards, we have 4 absentee counting boards, which are kind of required to process all of the ballots we currently have. We've done 2 elections now, larger November elections with over 13,000 absentee ballots. We have 4 high-speed scanners, and the term online is, I guess, a misnomer. It is still a closed network. The computers that are used, the scanners that are used, never see a network at all until it's time to update the Microsoft software package, at which point that's done outside of an election. So yeah, on election day, they are not attached to any network. The results are tabulated, and then they are sent upstairs, and then we transmit them to the county as well. But no, it's downstairs is a veritable black hole. There is no cell phone signal typically, and the computers are not equipped to attached wirelessly. They don't have those kind of modems, and there are no Ethernet ports down there as well. So this would be a computer that hooks up by cable to the other to the voting stations, and would be adjudicating it that way. So yeah, still secure, just like every other tabulator. It will not be attached to any existing network, and so the tabulation of votes is not in jeopardy.
Thank you.
Still have to, if there's errors, you would still have to pull those out and look at those. You have a group doing that, right?
Yeah, many people don't know the process for absentee ballots, and in the sake of time, and I get kind of nerdy about clerk stuff, and I can go off on tangents. So I will do my best to not do that. But I have a lot of questions. People say things like, when I vote in the precinct, I put it in the machine. I know what goes in there. How do I know my ballot gets tabulated? Do you only count them when it's close? I've heard that rumor. Somehow that rumor gets spread out and is never really died, that absentee ballots sometimes only get counted when it's close. No, I can assure you, every ballot that exists, that is voted and submitted by 8 o'clock by a qualified elector is in fact tabulated and will go towards the overall total. So the errors we have in the precinct, if you make a mistake on your ballot, you can, the tabulator won't accept it. And then you have to go back, request a new ballot, and they will then, and then you can then re-vote it. For the vote by mail or absentee ballots, if there is an error that is, it's hard to explain. So essentially, if there is a stray mark, if there is a defect in the ballot, let's say you spill coffee and the tabulator won't take it because of that, there's a process for 2 inspectors of competing political parties. So it has to be a Republican and a Democrat. They will sit down, one with your ballot, one with a fresh ballot. And one person will read the votes out while the other person fills in your ballot. And then they swap, and they confer. And the thought process from the state is you probably can't get a Republican and a Democrat to agree to do anything together, so put them in charge of that, and their built-in natural suspicion will make sure the process is safe and secure. And so in this scenario, instead of doing it on an actual ballot, you would have the one Republican and one Democrat at the station viewing them and making that adjudication there. And so the log would be kept in the computer itself. You would know which users approved it, you would know the time, and you would have a digital imprint of the actual ballot. So it's actually more secure than the current system. You're welcome. Hope I didn't go too far on the tangent on that one. I could talk about it all day.
Further questions or comments? Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to G9, that was a single item, yes. Consider approving purchase of helmet and handheld lights.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to purchase the 123 helmet and handheld lights from Windsor Police Equipment Incorporated in the amount of $12,864.
We have with us Deputy Chief Jamie Strassner to answer any questions on the next 2 items. Long story short, we're being asked to purchase 123 helmets and handheld lights. They went out for competitive bid. We had 8 responders, and they're recommending the low bid, which is Windsor Police Equipment, to replace this 25-year-old equipment. Are there any questions or comments for Deputy Chief Strassner?
What do you do with the old helmets?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So it's not the helmets, it's the lights on the helmets, and we'll just use those for training, and we'll still hold on to them.
I think John wants one.
Halloween.
He wants one is what it is, I think.
Yep.
Any additional questions or comments?
Looks like a lot of them came in kind of comparable,
Yes.
so we feel pretty comfortable with this bidder then. That sounds good.
No further comments or questions. Those in favor of the motion as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G10, consider accepting a FEMA assistance to firefighter grant. Item G10.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve accepting the Canton portion of a regional FEMA assistance to firefighter grant for radios and equipment in the amount of $44,642 with a 10% match requirement.
Second.
Canton Fire Department has been awarded a portion of a regional FEMA assistant to firefighter grant as outlined below. A regional grant was submitted by the City of Dearborn for radios and equipment on behalf of multiple communities, including Canton Township. The regional grant was awarded in the amount of $2,439,950 with a 10% match. Of that, $44,642 is specific to grant for Canton for our radio purchase. Upon acceptance of this grant, Fire Administration will begin purchasing process and adhering to township policy. Are there any questions for Deputy Chief Strassner or comments? Go ahead, Michael.
I'll just make a quick comment. I think that this is fantastic. 1, it's regionalism. 2, it's a grant. And 3, it's for emergency relief, which I think we are preparation. So this is huge. Great leadership. This is great. I'm really in favor of this.
What other communities get it? Is Canton, Dearborn Heights, and who else?
Farmington Hills, Garden City, Westland, Wayne. I believe that was all that was at that meeting, but yeah, it's a big grant. It's very
Great
good.
job.
Questions or comments? Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That completes our formal agenda this evening. Is there any additional public comment? Public comment? Directors, management team, any additional comments?
Just that, I mean, we broke a record yesterday with our snowfall, and we're breaking it again today with the temperature, so be careful out there. If you don't feel like you should be going out, don't go out. I saw 2 young people in the ditches on Cherry Hill Road yesterday, and, yeah, so events are secondary. If you don't feel safe driving, be careful.
Questions or statements? None? Okay. Call for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved.
Favor? Those in favor of the motion is seconded by Stephen. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.